Have you ever made the moment worse by trying to prove who you are? Someone says something sharp, and instead of judging them, you start defending yourself. You try to prove your tone. You try to prove your intent. You try to prove you are not what they just implied. But that is the shift. The moment you start proving yourself, you step into their frame. Now the room is no longer watching what they did. It is watching you work to clear your name. And the harder you try to look right, the more you look, the more you are pulled in. That is the real loss. You did not lose the moment when they crossed the line. You lost it when you accepted the burden of proving yourself inside it. This is the real mistake most people miss. They think the damage happened when the disrespect landed. It did not. The deeper loss started the moment you accepted the burden of proof. Now you are no longer standing there deciding what deserves your response. Now you are inside their frame, trying to repair your image. You add context. You correct details. You reach for one more sentence that will finally make them see you. Right. But that sentence never restores what the moment already changed. Because while you are working to clear your name, they stay still. They let you carry the effort, the movement, the urgency. And that is when the disrespect stops being the center of the scene. Your need to prove yourself becomes the center. That is the trap. Because once you start proving yourself, you are no longer protecting your position. You are negotiating for it. A lot of people lose the moment right here, not in some huge humiliation. Just one clean line that lands a little too well. Maybe it happens in a meeting. You say something simple. Someone cuts in and says, "That's not what you said earlier." The tone sounds light, but it is not light. A few people look up. The air changes, and your body feels it immediately. You do not want to look confused. You do not want to look inconsistent. You do not want that line sitting there unanswered. So, you move fast. "No, that's not what I meant." Then more. "What I meant was, if you take the full context." And now the shift is already happening. You are no longer making your point. You are trying to clear your name. You are trying to prove you are still in control of the moment. That is the mistake. You think one more sentence will put you back in position. But every extra word pulls you deeper into their frame. Because they barely have to do anything now. They already threw the line. You are the one doing the work. You are the one carrying the urgency. You are the one proving that the hit got inside. And people notice that fast, not because they are cruel, because movement draws the eye. Urgency draws the eye. The moment you start over-explaining, the room quietly stops asking whether they were fair. It starts watching how hard are you trying to recover your image. That is the first loss, not the comment. The fact that you started chasing your position back. The Stoic shift here is small. Do not rush to repair. Answer once if needed. Clean, brief, finished. Then let the weight fall back on the person who created the line. Then it stops being one moment. It becomes a pattern. As you start noticing how fast you go into defense every time someone reads you wrong. A text gets misunderstood. You send 3 more. Someone says, "You're being a little dramatic." You answer with a paragraph about what you really meant. A family member makes a slick comment. You start explaining your stress, your intention, your side, your history. And every time it feels justified. Because you are not trying to win. You are trying to clear your name. You are trying to make sure you do not get left there as the version of you they just reduced. That is why it is dangerous. It feels clean. It feels reasonable. It even feels mature. But what drives it is not a strength. It is the fear of being misread. And once that fear takes over, you become easy to pull. Now people do not need much. They question your tone. They question your motive. They question your character just enough. And suddenly you are doing labor they never earned. Explaining, clarifying, proving, trying to drag the moment back to fairness. But repeated proving doesn't train people to respect you. It trains them to expect access to your self-definition. Now they know they can throw doubt at you and make you work. That is the real consequence, not just exhaustion. Position loss. Because the more often you explain yourself on command, the more normal it becomes for other people to put you on the stand. And after a while, you do not even wait for them anymore. You start doing it to yourself. You pre-explain. You soften before speaking. You rush to clarify before anyone even asks. That is when the pattern has already entered your identity. The Stoic shift here is harder. Do not correct every misread. Do not answer every implication. If they did not earn access to define you, do not help them do it. And this is where other people start feeling it, not just you. Because once proving yourself becomes a reflex, it changes how you look in the room. Now it is not only about one disrespectful person. It is about the signal everyone else is quietly reading. Picture this. You are with a group. Someone makes a pointed comment with that half smile people use when they want to test you without looking directly. Maybe they say, "Wow, you always take things so personally." A couple of people laugh. Not fully, just enough. And right there, the pressure doubles. Because now it is not only about the comment. Now there are witnesses. Now the urge gets louder. You want to fix the room. You want everyone to know you are not emotional, not difficult, not what they just implied. So you start talking. You explain your intention. You explain the context. You explain why the reading is unfair. And while you are doing it, the shift becomes visible. Nobody else is working that hard. Nobody else is reaching that far. The person who threw the line leans back. You lean in. That is the social loss. Not that the whole room turns on you. Something quieter. People see that your image can be pushed, and you will rush in to stabilize it. They see that you can be moved in public. That is how respect starts thinning out in groups, not always through open attack. Sometimes through repeated proof that your center can be disturbed for everyone to watch. And once people feel that, they do not always say it. They just treat you a little differently, a little less carefully, a little less seriously, a little more free to test the edge again. That is the consequence. You were trying to protect how people saw you, but the proving itself became the thing they saw. The Stoic shift here is brutal. Do not perform your innocence for the room. Hold your pace. Say one clean line if needed. Then stop moving. Let the tension stay with the person who created it. And this is where the pressure gets dangerous, because now the moment actually matters. It is not some random comment. It is a client call, a team review, a conversation with someone whose opinion can change your position. They say something that bends the story, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to make you look uncertain, careless, or difficult. And the second it happens, your body knows. Your chest tightens. Because this time, the moment feels costly. Now you are not only dealing with disrespect, you are dealing with risk. So the urge to prove yourself arrives even faster. You try to clean up the whole impression before it settles. You explain what happened. You explain what you meant. You explain what got left out. You explain your reasoning too fast and in too much detail. And that is exactly where the position starts to drop. Because pressure does not make proving look stronger. It makes it look desperate. The room can feel that you are no longer choosing your words. You are trying to stop the damage. You are trying to outrun perception. You are trying to force the moment back under control. But forced control never looks like control. It looks like fear wearing the shape of logic. Meanwhile, the other person does not need to match your effort. They have already raised doubts. Now they get to watch how hard you fight it. That is the consequence. The more intensely you prove yourself under pressure, the more clearly you show that the pressure owns you. And once that happens, even a valid point from you starts losing weight. Not because it is wrong, because your delivery has already told the room that your balance is gone. That is the painful part. You were trying to protect your standing, but your urgency made your standing look unstable. The Stoic shift here has to be colder. Do not clear the whole record. Take one point, state it cleanly, keep your pace, then stop. Let restraint prove what panic never can. But this is where most people stop noticing the damage, because now nobody even has to say much. One pause, one look, one small change in tone, and something in you gets ready. Not for conflict, for correction, for that old feeling of being seen the wrong way and having to earn your way back out of it. So before the pressure even lands, you start building your defense. In your head first. You rehearse the explanation, you soften the sentence, you edit yourself while you are still speaking it. That is the shift. You are no longer reacting to their frame. You are carrying it inside your body. And now the mistake is not just over-explaining out loud. It is something worse. You start treating your own presence like it needs extra handling before it can be accepted. That is where people lose weight. Their words stop landing clean. Their tone starts sounding careful before the room even challenges it. And others feel that. They may not know why, but they feel someone who is already adjusting before any pushback has happened. This is no longer communication. It is self-protection becoming a personality. You are not just defending yourself anymore. You are presenting yourself like a case that might be rejected. The Stoic shift here is deeply simple. Stop preparing your defense before there is a case. Speak clean. Do not pre-apologize. Do not pre-clarify. Let your words stand without escorting them. Because the moment you stop acting like your presence needs approval, your natural weight starts coming back. And this is where it stops being a habit. It becomes an identity. Or you become the person who cannot leave a misunderstanding alone. Always clearing the air. Always fixing the read. Always making sure nobody walks away with the wrong version of you. It sounds responsible. It looks mature. But underneath it, something else is forming. You are building your whole presence around being explainable, safe, defendable, easy to process. That is the mistake. Because the real position does not depend on proving you deserve fair treatment every time someone gets disrespectful. Real position holds its shape even when someone tries to bend the frame. But when proving yourself becomes part of who you are, you start abandoning yourself in small, repeated ways. You betray your pace. You betray your silence. You betray your own read of the moment, just to avoid being misunderstood. And that is where identity starts leaking, not through one humiliation, through repeated self-abandonment disguised as clarification. The consequence is ugly. You stop looking grounded. You start looking available. Available for doubt. Available for correction. Available for framing. Available for pressure. People start to feel that your center can be negotiated. That is the real loss. Not that they misunderstood you, that you started treating your own presence like something that must be explained before it can be respected. The Stoic shift here is hard. You do not need to be fully understood to stay fully composed. Let them read you wrong if the price of correcting it is your position. Hold your shape. Do not chase clean perception at the cost of self-respect. And this is the moment the correction becomes real. Not when you understand it. When it happens again. Someone says something sharp, or they tilt your words a little, or they look at you like you now owe them a cleaner version of yourself. And you feel the old reflex rise. Explain it. Fix it. Prove who you are before the room settles the wrong way. The urge is still there. The heat, the pressure, the need to get your image back as fast as possible. But this time, you see the trap sooner. You see what is actually being offered. Not clarity. A frame. A position where you do the labor and they do the judging. And for once, you do not step into it. You let the silence stay uncomfortable. You let your face stay still. You let the moment ask for more than it deserves. And you refuse. Maybe you can give one line. That's not accurate. Or, you can see it that way. Or maybe you say even less, because now you are no longer trying to win your name back from someone who was ready to distort it anyway. That is the correction. You stop trying to be cleared. You start deciding what gets access to your effort, and the shift happens immediately. First inside. Your breathing steadies. Your pace returns. Your words stop running ahead of you. Then outside. The room no longer sees someone fighting to recover position. It sees someone who did not leave it. That is when your position returns, quietly. Not because everyone agrees with you, because you stopped volunteering for a trial that was never yours to enter. The real mistake after disrespect was not only the emotion, it was what you did next. The moment you started working to clear your name, you gave up the position and stepped into their frame. That is the hard truth. Not every false read deserves correction. Not every sharp comment deserves your effort. Some moments do not take your power because of what was said. They take it because you rushed to prove you were still worthy inside a frame, built to reduce you. That is the loss, not misunderstanding. Position. But once you see that, the whole pattern changes. You stop treating every misread like an emergency. You stop feeding people who need you unsettled in order to feel right. You stop acting like your dignity depends on being properly explained. And that is where calm power returns. Not when everyone sees you correctly. When you stop abandoning yourself just to make them. Because position does not return when you prove harder. It returns when you stop volunteering to stand trial.